Hi there, I'm Pastor John, and welcome to week 6 of our 6 Anchor devotional series. So glad that you could come, and we hope that you get a lot out of this. One of the things we've been studying is just the nature of anchors themselves. Anchors have two primary functions. One, in a storm, an anchor is going to keep the ship from being swamped by the waves. It stabilizes the ship and keeps the ship pointed in the right direction. But also in a more subtle situation, an anchor is great in harbor when you think it's safe. Skies can be clear, it can be a gentle breeze, but if you don't have an anchor, your ship will slowly drift into dangerous waters, and the end result is both the same: your ship sinks. Well, we've been talking about how hope is an anchor, and hope is not that wishful thinking kind of hope, but that certain expectation of something that's happening in the future. But the value of your hope is ultimately what you're putting your hope in. Well, this week we're going to look at putting our hope in wisdom. Now, on the face of it, that seems to make sense. Does wisdom help you out in the middle of a storm? I think it does. Does being smart help you out from drifting slowly off course? Yes, it does. This is a bit of an easy one. But when we think about it a little bit more, I think there's more we can get. See, sometimes we have this confusion between knowledge, intelligence, and wisdom. And someone who's very knowledgeable may not be very intelligent, and someone who's very intelligent may not be very wise. What is wisdom in and of itself? And how do we get it? Well, the Bible talks about in Proverbs chapter 2 that for the Lord gives wisdom, and it's from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. Okay, if wisdom is something that comes from God, that distinguishes it something from knowledge and understanding that we just gain on our own. All right, we've got a few questions here. What is the difference between wisdom from God and ideas that are merely in fashion at the moment? Why would someone put their trust in the wisdom of God rather than the popular thought of the day? And lastly, why do we find this so hard to do? Pause the video right now and discuss this there in your small group. Sure, it's easy sometimes to talk about the wisdom of God compared to the passing fads in the world around us. But sometimes the problem isn't necessarily of us trusting in God or trusting in the world. Most of the time, the issue is not the world, the issue is ourselves. Now, this is, I think, part of the world around us as well, and it's the way I was raised. I remember every single Disney movie I ever watched as a kid taught me these lessons. That yeah, sometimes life gets really, really hard, but if you really, really, really believe in yourself and you really, really trust in yourself and you have a lot of self-confidence, then you can overcome anything. It's what I was taught my whole life. It's what I've always believed. And I remember I was shocked. I was astonished when I found that nowhere in the entire Bible does it tell us to have confidence in ourselves. Now, it tells us to have confidence and talks about how God gives us a spirit of boldness and power, not one of timidity, but it doesn't tell us to put our confidence in ourselves. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 to 6 says this. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight." Well, what is the difference between the wisdom of God and my own personal understanding? Why would someone want to put their trust in the wisdom of God rather than putting their trust in themselves? And lastly, why do we find this hard to do? Pause the video and discuss this in your group. One of the things that the Bible is consistent about is the difference between God and us. God is all-powerful, all-knowing, all-good, and we are most definitely not that. And when you think of it logically, if you imagine like an old-fashioned balance scale, if we put ourselves on one end and God on the other, which one is going to be weightier, myself or God? Who's smarter, God or me? Who has more wisdom, God or me? Who has more noble intent, God or me? Who knows the ultimate consequences of what we're doing, God or myself? I think if we think through it logically and rationally, of course putting our trust in the wisdom of God makes sense. And trusting in God's wisdom and direction, that's what's really going to help us in the storm, and that's what's really going to help us from drifting off course. We'll see you next week.